her, her mother was Frederica Brathwaite, and her father was James Anthony Holder. Janissa married David Samuel Carter Jr. He was from White Plains. Yeah, yeah. Janissa married Omer Carter, who was from White Plains. But she was a holder and very, very nice person. And she was a dressmaker, as we used to call them in those days, seamstress. Yeah. And she had 2 children, Sammy David Carter and Maxwell Carter. Those were her boys. And when she and Sammy David Carter got divorced, she married one Charles Darby. Didn't have any children. She only had those 2 boys. Actually, she had 3 children, 2 boys and a girl. The girl was called Inez Carter, but she died at the age of 7. Yes. Janissa Zipporah. Sammy David was married twice. He was married to Dorothy Cooper, and after they divorced, he married one Jean Yancey. And then he and Dorothy had one son, who is David Samuel, I think the second. And then he and Jane had 3 children, Clarence, Buffy, and Amber. Buffy and Amber are in America. Clarence is here. And Jean, his widow, Jean, is in Minnesota. And Maxwell, who was the younger brother, was my husband. Yes, his first wife was one Esther Johnson from Kakata. And they had one son. Then he and I got married. The son that he and Esther had is called Doc Duval Osborne Carter. And I'm his second wife. And we had 4 children. Gregory Lee, Chalnicia Maxine Zipporah, and Samantha Inez, and Maxwell Banya II. Then he married this Jewish girl, Eileen. Yeah, your cousin Maxwell was a playboy. Off and on. He was in America after he graduated from school. I joined him in 1964. But we had 2 of the children before we got married. We had Greg and Maxine before we got married. And then later on, we had Maxwell and Samantha. Then we got divorced, and he got married to Eileen. They had one daughter. Her name is Jessica Sarah Carter. To school in America, is it Florida A&M? Yes, and then he went to Florida A&M, and then he went to a college in Greensboro, North Carolina. He worked for John Hancock. Yeah, and one time he was manager of the African pavilion at the World's Fair. He died then he moved back home permanently, and he died on May 27th, 2007. Yeah. Yeah, Maxwell had just attended the funeral of his cousin, Elijah Garnett. He attended Elijah's funeral that Saturday, and he died the next day.
Oh my.
Yeah.
But
when I was in America, I was working with I worked with the Citibank in Manhattan. I worked with Lamco in America. I worked with the Asia Society. This was a private organization owned by John Rockefeller. And I worked, my last place of employment was MetLife for 8 years. And I came back home in, when did I come home? I came back home in 1978. I came back home at the wrong time. 78, 79, the race riot, 82, and I've been here since. Oh, thank God I didn't. I went through everything, the war, the rice riot, everything. God carried me and my family through. Because, like the children practically grew up on their own. I was a single parent, and, going to work, leaving them on their own. I go in the morning, they get home at 3 from school. I don't get home until 6 or so. And there was a time when I even worked 2 jobs. Yeah, it was difficult, very difficult. Burned my house on Warren Street. Burned the house. Everything was there. The only thing I managed to escape with was my green card and my deed, the deed to my property on Warren Street. But everything got burned. My parents were Mary Brooks. She was from Sino. They came from, I think they said they were from the West Indies, but I really don't know much about my mother's people because I lived with my father's mother.
Okay.
And she was a Massaquoi.
Oh,
my father was McGill. I think they came from Boston. I think, I'm not sure. I don't want to give any wrong information, but I think my mother's people were also from the West Indies. Next to palm butter is flour sauce, but palm butter is my favorite, with enough kiss-me and stockfish.
Oh.
We can't get stockfish here now. Maxwell's favorite food was dry rice and fried fish. I know that Sammy David got married twice, to Dorothy first and then Jane. He worked at Public Works. It would be good for them to obtain an education because they have to take control of the country later on instead of just being on drugs and sex, because that's what's raging in Liberia right now. A few of them are into education. Very few. When I went to America in 1965, we lived in the same building. In fact, Maxwell was, I don't know what to call it, bluff boy or what. Maxwell, when he had us in the Statler Hilton in New York. Oh, so he called Tina. We spoke, she said, Howard, where are you? I said, Tina, we had one hotel called Statler Hilton. She said, what? You know how much money that is? So she found an apartment for us in the same building. She was on the 6th floor and we were on the 7th floor. 324 West 84th Street, between Riverside and Broadway.
That's
Yeah.
wow. Isn't that something?
Yeah, Tina was my god sister and I were close. Tina and I were very close. Very, very close. When she got married to Charles Darby, she got married in Miss Ellen Sandy Manning's house. And when she died, at the time they laid the bodies out in the homes, you know, for home wakekeeping, and she was laid out there.
Wow.
Yeah, that was her first cousin. It's not like that anymore. People hardly know their relatives. You meet at funerals and they will tell you, oh, this cousin, this and that. But see, I'm from the McGill side and we're not many. We're not many. There was Mancha Nisa and Henrietta, Uncle Jimmy, and Uncle Rudolph. And Henrietta and Uncle Jimmy, they were sister and brother, and also first cousin, identical twins, Sally and Selena. I don't know who was Uncle Jimmy's mom, because those two women, those two women, they were identical. So I don't know whose mother was Sally and whose mother was Selena. What those two women? Those two women looked alike, too identical.